This is Batal Edwards here, the self-appointed translator of Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, the self-appointed YouTube spokesman. I do not have permission to do this. This is, I don't know if there's Hasagat Gvul involved in this, but I do know one thing, that Manny is going to get really ripped at me. But, okay. He can always tell me to take it off. But for now, I think people need to hear some Torah. And Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz said this last night on the 15th, I believe, of January in the year 2010, which is really 5770. Talked about the Tzemach Tzedek. It was the subject, his writings, as translated and explained by Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, Eben Yisrael, Shlita, and as filtered through the mind of a madman named Batal Edwards. Okay, these things which I command you to do today, do them today and not tomorrow. Okay, the Bible says, these things I command you to do today. So don't procrastinate, okay? And the difference is, the subject is, what is this world and what is the world to come? Now, the world to come is the afterlife, hell, heaven, or just what happens next. Anyhow, our time is limited, so let's do it fast. In this world we do things. In the world of Torah, he says, do them today. We do things in this world. We do Torah things in this world. We put on tefillin. We keep Shabbos. We help the poor. We act with kindness. We burn red heifers. Well, not now, but eventually. And it's just, you got to do it today. Don't put it off until tomorrow. So what's the advantage of this world over the world to come? There's a number. One of them is choice. We can choose between good and evil. Even if somebody sinned, he can make tshuva, and he can go back to Avodas Hashem. All in this world, but not in the next world. It's gone, kavar. It's already done in the next world. So, do them today. Because today you can change things. In the world to come, you can't change anything. There's no appearance of a new possibility in the world to come. In the world to come, there's a nullification of choice. There's no choice, but also the no good, the evil inclination is also nullified. So I don't know how we got to this point, but it mentions nations call him the God of all gods. In other words, it's usually the ancient sages. There are 70 nations of the world, and the sages of the Talmud, they did extensive interviews with the idolaters and their beliefs, and concluded that in the pantheons of idolatry and the high priests of idolatry, they readily admit that there is one God in control of all the little gods and goddesses. The God of all gods. And okay, that I don't see how that fits in, but then the next thing in my notes is that what's the difference between the world to come? There's a greater illumination. There's God's light shines stronger in the world to come than it does here. But a person can't control his soul in the world to come. He can't get out of it. In the world to come, he sees more, he understands more, but he can't exist in a state of choice or in a state of concealment. The Rabbi Steinsaltz mentioned the kaf hakela. Kaf hakela is like a slingshot. The David and Goliath, you put the rock in the leather pouch and the string, and you swing it around, and then the Arab kids these days are still using them, and if God forbid they should ever hurt a Jew. Someday there'll be peace in the land, and we'll beat the plowshares into musical instruments. So the kafakela is a slingshot, and it goes back one side to the other. It's an expression of the suffering we endure in this world. So when people are involved in vain things and nonsense, and people make fun of Hashem, scoffing God, that's the kafakela is the punishment for these things. In the concept of kafakela, the slingshot, man cannot get out of this world. Even though in the world to come, man understands more, still he can't get out of the world to come. He's stuck there. And they say there's a famous belief in Jewish belief that if for every sin a man does in this world, in the world to come he wears black and filthy garments. So every time a Jew eats pig, every time a Jew gets in the car and drives on Shabbos or smokes a cigarette on Shabbos, it's like putting on a decrepit. Every time a man fights with his wife and says hurtful things to violate the biblical somebody hurts people, lashes out at people in an unwarranted way, and uses verbal violence or just to get a rise even out of other people. It's lo tonu ishet amito. It's a violation of the biblical commandment of not to defraud and to trick and to hurt other people. That's a biblical prohibition. So every time when somebody does a thing like that, it's like putting on a shirt that's covered with filth, with crap, with vomit, and those are the garments he'll have to wear for all eternity into the world to come. So the kafakela is in this world. But man can change. Man can change his garments in this world. In this world, a man can take off the filthy garments of sin, and he can put on the beautiful, pure garments of mitzvot and commandments. But that whatever garments he wears, both of them, he's going to have to reconcile and reckon with them and stand in judgment in the world to come. So why doesn't so the world to come? He said that it remains. There's no possibility to rest in the part of. That he lost his possibility of rest. He's part of one world in one place, and that's it. A person in this world can move. In the world to come, you can't move. You're only in your specific place from the situation you created in this world. Okay? A person did something. I videotaped it. The thing is videotaped. And afterwards, I show that person the videotape. And the person could get quite angry. He could get upset. He could regret it, say, I didn't want to do that. It was wrong, but there's nothing you can do about it. It's taped. It's done. It's in the past. That's the world to come. It could be that I understand more in the world to come, but with kafakela, with the slingshot, the suffering of this world that goes back from one side to the other, the movement or the transmigrations, a form of intense suffering that we endure in this world called kafakela. It's some of the suffering of Gehinnom. Kafakela is a little bit like Gehinnom, of hell. But where he sees all of his nonsense, he sees all of his mistakes, all of his sins. One of the things that in this world we don't know is an advantage. The advantage of this world is that we forget things with the passage of time. But in the world to come, there's no forgetting. In this world, there's a wonderful thing that's called forgetting, where like pain, you can't recreate pain. You could have your teeth ripped out, and a year later you could remember the experience, but you can't conjure up the exact sensation, nerve endings, nerve signals to the brain of that pain. That's a great thing about the world, this world, but not so in the world to come. So with these wonderful words of the Tzemach Tzedek as taught by Rabbi Steinsaltz and as translated by Betzalel, we are going to say Shabbat Shalom.